All right, let's get cooking. Welcome to the latest edition of Chin Check Sports Radio. I'm your host, JD. I want to thank you all for taking the time out to join us. And as always, we welcome any suggestions, feedback, comments, and criticisms, which improves the quality of our program, which ultimately improves your listening experience. Before we get started, I want to send all of you thank you for your tremendous support. People are slowly but surely finding out about who we are and what we do. They enjoy and respect the passion with which we speak. But as we always say here at Chin Check Sports Radio, we do this because we love it, as we are simply sharing our passions with you all as we continue to build our listening army to take over the world. We at Chin Check Sports Radio are your go-to on YouTube for Dallas Cowboys coverage throughout the year. Continuing on with our coverage of the 2022 Dallas Cowboys, a tougher than expected victory week 13 against the heavy underdog state rival Houston Texans. Let's jump into our numbers here. Quarterback Dak Prescott, 24 39 attempts, 284 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Ezekiel Elliott, 15 carries, 62 yards, 1 touchdown. Tony Pollard, 10 carries, 42 yards, 1 touchdown. Dalton Schultz, 6 catches, 87 yards. Noah Brown, 4 catches, 84 yards. Came up big today. Michael Gallup, 2 catches, 40 yards. CeeDee Lamb, 5 catches, 33 yards. Tony Pollard, 4 catches, 20 yards, and 1 touchdown. On the defensive side, Leighton Vander Esch, 14 total tackles, 9 solo, 1 tackle for a loss. Deron Bland, 6 total tackles, 3 solo. Damon Clark, this kid is really showing me something here, folks. 6 total tackles, 3 solo. Trevon Diggs, 5 total tackles, 5 solo. DeMarcus Lawrence, 5 total tackles, 3 solo, 1 huge tackle for a loss. Micah Parsons, 5 total tackles, 2 solo. Kelvin Joseph, 4 total tackles, 4 solo. Donovan Wilson, 4 total tackles, 3 solo. Osa Adigazua, 4 total tackles, 3 solo, 1 tackle for a loss. Dante Fowler, 3 total tackles, 2 solo. Jaron Kearse, 3 total tackles, 1 solo. And Carlos Watkins, 2 total tackles, 2 solo. Again, the Cowboys were heavy favorites. I believe over 2 touchdown favorites going into this game against the 1-win Houston Texans, who had already been eliminated from the playoffs. So it was almost a foregone conclusion that the Cowboys starters were going to be in the locker room by halftime. We said when we did our last Dallas Cowboy review that it's best case scenario, but again, they are a professional football team. And wouldn't you know it, the Cowboys had to pull one out at the very end. Now, constantly you heard Mike McCarthy saying that you didn't want the team to take the cheese like a rat in the trap, because this was the proverbial trap game. Again, you just blew a team out the previous week. Now you're playing a 1-win team, a team for all appearances is getting ready for next season. And you thought that they were going to roll over, and it didn't happen. And the Texans probably played their best game this season. If you look at some of their records, they have been in a lot of football games. But the old saying is, you are what your record says you are. So the Dallas Cowboys took the opening drive. They scored a touchdown with Tony Pollard. So now you would think that the Cowboys are well on their way to rolling this thing over. They're well on their way to making this thing happen. And as the Cowboys, their defense, I believe they got a 3-and-out, or they forced the Texans to punt. Kevontae Turpin muffs a punt return, giving the Texans great field position. They take it in and they score. They tie the ball game. So again, it was just a series of mistakes from the Dallas Cowboys. A Dak Prescott interception that resulted in another touchdown. So going into the half, the Dallas Cowboys were down 2017 at home against the 1-win Houston Texans. Not a good look. Definitely was a bad look. Again, the third quarter, the Texans, they end up getting a field goal out of it. But the Cowboys, with 10 unanswered points in the fourth quarter, did show some true mettle and coming back in a less than stellar performance and in a gritty win. However, some things have to be discussed because we at Chin Check Radio, we do not gloss over wins, nor do we overreact to losses. So there are some things, despite winning the game, despite being 10-3, some things that have to be discussed. Namely, the poor start again by the Cowboys. This is becoming a recurring theme. This is becoming a problem. Again, the Cowboys cannot play this kind of game. And I understand both sides of the argument. You have some Cowboys fans who are like, we're 10-3, a win is a win. You know, those things happen in the NFL. The Texans are a pro football team or a professional football team. We get the argument. The Cowboys, they hung in there. The season didn't fall, or the game didn't get away from them. You know, and they were able to bounce back and win the game. That's great. Some people look at it as all that against a one-win team. Our issue with it is, it shouldn't have gotten to that point with a one-win team. Teams that are gearing up for the Super Bowl don't have these kind of stinkers. Teams gearing up for the Super Bowl don't have these miscues like muff punts, bad interception. Even some of Dak Prescott's throws weren't that well in the first half. And I want to call your attention to a specific play in the first half when it was a third down. Dak is facing some pressure, scrambles out of the pocket, didn't get set on the throw, throws the ball to Tony Pollard, who Tony Pollard had to scoop down, stop his momentum, scoop down, catch the ball, and was stopped short of a first down. Things like that, if Dak Prescott throws a better ball and catches Tony Pollard in between the numbers, Tony Pollard, I think, has the speed to actually beat the defenders down the field and maybe go for a first down. So it's those little things like that. The one interception that Dak Prescott threw, you clearly saw where the ball, it came out of his hand a little bit funky. You had Blake, the tight end Dalton Schultz, who didn't seem to be in position, but the ball was batted in the air and it came down as an INT. So those are those little things that when you play tough defenses like a San Francisco or even a Tampa Bay, again, they still have not beaten Tampa Bay, led by Tom Brady. So you cannot have these kind of mistakes if you're looking to have a playoff push. It's something that we keep bringing up all the time. You can get away with it against teams like the Houston Texans, but you're not going to get away with it against good to elite teams, especially come playoff time. Those things can't happen. You saw in the first Eagles game when they had a bunch of turnovers, things didn't work out well for them. So you cannot have these things against good football teams. They have to be cleaned up. So that was the one issue. The other big issue that came out of this game was the Cowboys did not leave this game unscathed. You had injuries to starting right tackle Terrence Steele, which is going to be a huge loss. Hopefully he's not hurt too bad. Early reports is that he's going to go for an MRI tomorrow. Probably will miss the rest of the season. I think the Cowboys shouldn't panic because now with Tyron Smith coming back, now that goes into maybe plugging him back in, shooting a kid over, Tyler Smith to left guard, having Zach Martin play right guard, and putting Jason Peters at right tackle. So that is one offensive line combination. Or if you want to put Peters at right guard and kick Zach Martin out to right tackle, well, he did a very admirable job in 2020. So just some things to play with because the back of who they had in there, Josh Ball, was getting abused in his limited time, getting tossed around like a rag doll. That's a serious problem, and he should have been escorted off the premises. Again, we don't want to overreact, and we say that tongue-in-cheek, but he needs to show something if he wants to stay on the team as a backup or swing tackle. So that Terrence Steele loss is actually very, very underrated, and I hope Cowboys fans understand how much of a valuable player that he's been. We sung his praises last season when he played well when Lyle Collins was suspended. And as you see, he made the Cowboys not even regret letting Lyle Collins walk to the Cincinnati Bengals. So this kid has been playing well for us the last season and a half. His injury, we hope it's not too serious. But if it is that serious, well, he does miss a significant amount of time. Terrence, we definitely want to wish you the best. We definitely wish you a speedy recovery. And guys, and the Cowboys can make some offensive line adjustments. That's just what they're going to have to do. We want to give Dak Prescott all the credit in the world. Now, we know the Cowboys are judged by a different standard than other football teams. Where the Philadelphia Eagles struggled against the Colts, it was called a gutty victory. When the Cowboys crushed the Colts, it was a great victory. The Cowboys pulled this out at the very end. They're getting back. So again, I understand both sides of the argument. Our frustration is it shouldn't have came down to that. But on the flip side, the quarterback showed poise. He engineered a 98-yard drive for the go-ahead score. That is, quote, what we judge quarterbacks on. So, again, I understand both sides of the argument where he should get the praise for leading his team when they were down 98 yards. But, again, our problem with that is, come playoff time, are you doing that against a team like the San Francisco 49ers because you put yourself in a hole? Are you doing that against a team like against the Eagles of Philadelphia when you put yourself in a hole? That's where our concern is. Again, you can get away with it against the Houston Texans, but down the score, are you taking that team down the field against the Philadelphia Eagles or the San Francisco 49ers? And more than likely, both games would be on the road. So it's something to just be mindful of. And Dallas Cowboys, this is where reading your press clippings and worrying about the wrong thing. Stop with the recruiting of Odell Beckham Jr. This is a prime example of worrying about the wrong thing. Basking in the glory of a dominant performance against the Colts. I got Micah Parsons and Trevon Diggs at the basketball game with OBJ, and everybody's chummy, buddy. And really, Micah Parsons really wasn't much of a factor today as he was last week. So it's those little things. I have Trevon Diggs, who appeared to be injured earlier in the game, maybe some type of thumb or hand injury, but obviously he came back, had a nice fumble recovery, ran all over the field and then ran out of gas, okay, it seems like. So, again, reading the press clippings, thinking that you're there, trying to court OBJ, it just wasn't a good game. Get them back focused. You guys have not accomplished anything. You guys have not won anything. Stop acting like you guys have won something. You guys have not accomplished anything. The goal is to get to the playoffs. Again, now if the starting right tackle is going to be a problem, Kelvin Joseph. We stated on the last broadcast, if Kelvin Joseph does not show anything during his time of play this season, get him the hell out of there. With Kelvin Joseph, a little rough in the first half, had a huge pass breakup, so maybe those things can build his confidence up. So we hope that seems to be the case. Again, had a rough first half, allowed a completion, even though he was, quote, beaten on a play that resulted in a big gain. If anything, it should have been not ruled a catch. Even when replay, the ball came out of the receiver's hand. Maybe Joseph could maybe done a better job to force him down the sidelines, but again, that's just nitpicking here and there. But again, when it mattered most, he had a key pass breakup, so we'll give him credit for that. That was part of the game being saved for the Cowboys. So we're definitely gonna give him his credit. But a win is a win. Yes, we're 10-3. Yes, we still are in contention for the division when they play the Eagles in about 2 weeks, so we're going to give them credit for that. But again, these kind of performances is not going to work against the Philadelphia Eagles. These kind of performances are not going to work against the San Francisco 49ers. It's just not going to work. So these are some things that have to be cleaned up. We'll take the victory. A win is a win. But of course, we at Chin Check Radio, we have to tell like it is. We also lost Big Jonathan Hankins. That's depth along the interior of the defensive line. So it looks like he might have separated his shoulder. Tight end Jake Ferguson was also hurt, so that's taken away depth from the tight end. So now he's left with Peyton Hendershot and now Dalton Schultz. I like what this kid was showing. So again, some of the injuries that the Cowboys suffered with Terrence Steele, it can go down. It could be a potential disaster. We have Big Jonathan Hankins. Hopefully he won't miss out of time, but that's depth on the interior. Quentin Bohanna, I thought, filled in admirably, but there's a reason why they got this big guy, as well as Jake Ferguson getting hurt. Again, that's tight end depth and blocking. So those are things that the Cowboys had to prepare for as they make their home stretch. Two things: better play starting in the first half, limiting turnovers, because again, Dak cannot afford to be a turnover machine at this stage of the season. And again, managing injuries to making sure key guys don't get hurt. Again, they've been solid this year, but they were bitten a little bit by the injury bug. Again, against a one-win team who played their most complete and physical game of the season. So it's something to be mindful of going forward. So until the next time, this is Chin Check Radio, signing out.